Shout out to TLP Sports Club, baby. BWB.
Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. Family, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Make sure to give me the thumbs up and don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you can get the videos as soon as I upload it to YouTube. Family, I gotta go ahead and get into this video real quick, so that's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. Today, what I wanted to do is bring you some information on the Pac-12 team, how much money they spent 2022 on recruiting. The Buffalo's Wire put out an article ranking each Pac-12 team on how much money they spent doing last year. And then I'm going to give you their actual record, and then we can have a discussion. For those of you who know how to extrapolate this data, who know how to analyze this data and give us some type of insight, please help me out on this video in the comments if you can. This is investigative information. This is the type of information I want us to have access to, and then I want us to be able to read between the lines. Let's go ahead and go to the buffaloswire.usatoday.com so that we can get the rankings on the Pac-12 and where they stand as far as spending on recruitments. Let's go. This one is coming from Jack Carlo, ranking each Pac-12 football team by 2022 recruiting spending. In today's college football, you get what you give. Teams that are able and willing to expend more resources on recruiting typically land the best recruits no matter the state they're in. For Colorado, the Buffs have long used a good deal of their available resources to heavily recruit California and Texas, but things are quickly changing in that regard with head coach Deion Sanders' Southern connections. Using data obtained from a partnership between USA Today Sports and the Knight Newhouse Data Project at Syracuse University, below is a look at how much each Pac-12 school spent on football recruiting for the 2022 fiscal year. There's a note here. Note, financial data was not released for USC and Stanford. USC and singular Cardinal. The Buffalo's Wire, they didn't really go deep. They just gave us the numbers. They didn't really give us no insight. So I had to kind of draw my own insight on this. I want your help also. Some of you guys work into the college system and the recruiting, or some of you were previous recruiters and you guys understand this information, what it means. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit on the surface because I don't know too much about this information. So let's go ahead. All right, so we're ranking them from top 10 to number 1, okay? All right, so number 10, we have Arizona State. Arizona in 2022 spent $461,196. From 2017 to 2022 average spending, $461,336.33. They got it way down to like the penny. I guess this is something they got to report. I don't know. If you are in the system, if you're in the college system and you know that every dollar, every penny has to be recorded. Like, I don't care if they buy cigarettes or they buy drinks, they buy some soda, that has to be recorded. Every single receipt has to be recorded. It's an NCAA rule. You guys help me out, okay, as I go along. Let's have a conversation, please, in the comments. What was Arizona State's record for the 2022 season? All right, so I'm going to put that on the screen for you guys. Arizona State in the conference, they were 2-7. Their percentage was .222, and overall they went 3-9. So that's how Arizona fared out with their $461,000 in recruiting. How does that affect their record? How does that work as far as who they were able to land? Also, where they were able to go, or how many games they ended up losing and winning. How does that affect them? For you guys who know, we can start having that conversation. Let's read between the lines. This recruiting information is going to help us to understand what's going on in the minds of these schools, the coaches, how much you spend, how much you had to spend matters in the overall outcome of your school's record. So let's go to the next one. Number 9, Washington State. 2022 spending, $641,614. Their average spending was $449,553.50. All right, so what was Washington State's record in 2022? Washington State in the conference went 4-5. For their percentage, they had a Jay-Z album, 444. And then their overall was 7-6. Number 8 was Colorado. Their 2022 spending was $770,283. Their average spending was $569,887.50. So this gives us a lot more insight because remember, this is Coach Durrell now. This is Coach Durrell's spending. We did a video on Coach Durrell, talked about the amount of resources that he had or did not have. So now we know how much he spent on recruiting. They spent more money than Arizona State and they spent more money than Washington State. If it was just based on spending and where they were able to reach, that means they were able to go further out. They were able to cover more ground than those two schools. Their record should have been better. Was somebody tanking on purpose, the numbers really says a lot. The numbers are going to say a lot more than the actual stuff that was going on, because we know that this is Power 5. Is much different from other schools. If you look at how much money Jackson State spent, we understand this is Power 5, so I'm just going to amuse you for 1 second. For those of you who are keeping track, don't bash me in the comments, but let's just put numbers into perspective for a second. Colorado spent $770,000 in recruiting. I saw some numbers on the amount of money that Jackson State spent in 2022. And whew. And remember, Jackson State went undefeated. Of course, they lost in that Celebration Bowl, but I know that that's a lower level. I get it, okay? But what goes into the recruiting? A lot of us are going to be on the 22nd, right? We don't live in Boulder, so if you live in New York like me, you got to book the plane, somewhere to stay. You're going to have money for food. How many days you're going to be there? The hotels are charging you per night. All of that stuff has to be considered. When do you arrive? When do you leave? Is breakfast included? Lunch, dinner, all of those things. I know those basic amenities are included or part of recruiting, but what more is there? We're talking about the players. Like, what are they looking for? What do you have to do for them and their families? It's not just like, I'm going to come in to recruit, I'm going to stay in my hotel, go talk to them, and then I'm out. Are you bringing gifts? I didn't do the research on the requirements for recruiting and what you're able to and not able to do for these recruits. But do you give them a Rolex? Do you promise them certain things? I know that you got to verbally let them know whether you're going to give them a scholarship or not. That part I understand. But what else do you have to do? How much do those roses cost for auntie, uncle, mom, dad? Are you bringing him a sweatshirt? Are you bringing them merchandise? What are you doing? What goes into the recruiting that amounts to this amount of money? And then when you are at a Power 5, what are the differences that also goes into that? That's something to also talk about, because Power 5 recruiting is a whole lot different than HBCU recruiting or the lower level recruiting. You got Jackson State that's spending $22,000, $30,000 in recruiting. They're basically just going across the street and just asking anybody walking around like, hey, bro, can you play? I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to edit this part out. Maybe not. Where can you go with $10,000, $22,000? You basically just driving around asking people, hey, can you play? I know I'm making a joke, but you can't do much when you don't have much. You're going to have to make a lot of phone calls and figure things out when you don't have the money. Where does the money go? $770,000 is a lot of money. Maybe not at a Power 5. Maybe it equals out to $20,000 at HBCUs. Maybe not. You guys let me know. Let's move on. We got UCLA. Do I have to show you Colorado's record? We already know one. Let me amuse us. Put it up, Harry B. Colorado 1-8 in the conference. They were 1-1-1 percentage, 1-11 overall. Come on, guys. Like, just to be fair, we're doing it for everybody. Let's just do it. Okay. Moving on. Colorado was number 8. Number 7 is UCLA. UCLA 2022 spending, $899,099. Their average spending is $673,583. And what was UCLA's record? UCLA was 6-3 in the conference. They lost 3 games in the conference, and they were the devil. Not the Sun Devils, but they were 6-6 was their percentage. Overall, they were 9-4. That's a pretty good season. If we do 9-4 this year with Coach Prime, that would be a successful season for sure. Coming from 1-11, I can't wait to stop talking about that 1-11 and start talking about 9-4, 10-2, and any other number. I don't care. Just give me anything other than 1-11, please. I'm so tired of talking about this, especially if you read over data like we do to bring you guys these videos. You keep seeing 1-11, you get like, come on, already, please just stop talking about that already. The writers, they have to keep writing about it until they get new data. So we're not getting new data until way after the summertime. You're going to keep hearing about this 1-11. Unfortunately, that's just how this media stuff works. It would have been nice if I did some more extensive research into who were the players that they got with that numbers. Hey, listen, you guys watched the games last year. You guys saw all of these teams. If you are a college football person, who was their top recruit for each team that I'm talking about? Who was their quarterback? If they got a new quarterback, wide receivers, running back, the position players, the trenches guys, who were these players that they brought in that you know that you can say and you can add to this conversation in the comments? All right, so moving on to number 6, we got Oregon State, $1,008,117, $727,441.67. That was their average spending. All right, so what was Oregon State's record? Just like UCLA, they were 6-3, and their percentage was the devil at 666. Oh, you guys are going to have a lot of fun with that one. Overall, they were 10-3. My goodness. If we go 10-3, boy. So number 5 is Cal. Cal spending $1,041,868. Their average was $619,171. And what was their record? In the conference, they only won 2 games. They lost 7. They were 2-2-2. And overall, they went 4-8. So they won 2 other games outside of the conference. 4-8 is not a great record. It's definitely better than 1-11. But if we're reading between the lines on some of these things that we're talking about, how much money they spent versus their record, their overall record, it's telling the stories, guys. If you're watching this video and you follow Cal over the season, who did they bring in? Who was their top 2022 recruits? So who did spend $1 million on? Put that stuff in the comments so that we can know. And also keep in mind the Paper Tigers, that's us, being the worst team in the conference. We spent $770,000. They spent over $1 million, and they only won 2 games in the conference. We're the worst in the conference. Those are narratives that are being told by these numbers. So let's go ahead and move to the next one. So number 4, this next team is Utah. So Utah in 2022 spent $1,152,211. On an average, they spent $873,087.67. What was Utah's record in the conference? They were 7-2. They only lost 2 games in the conference, 7-7-7. If you follow those type of things, 7 is the number of completion. On the 7th day, God rested. Overall, they went 10-4. That's a really good season for Utah. I really like the way that Utah plays. I love their grit. When you see them play, they are a hard-nosed team. After reading all of these things, watching highlights, and doing some homework, if there's any one team in this conference that I have the most concern that they're going to give us the business, it's going to be Utah. All right, so coming in at number 3, we have Arizona. Arizona's spending was $1,312,678. Their average was $679,765.17. What was Arizona's record? Arizona was 3-6 in the conference. Their percentage was .333, and overall, they were 5-7. So they only won 3 games in the conference spending that much money. What are you seeing? Tell me in the comments if you made it this far in the video. What do you see? What story does that tell you? Because we're the Paper Tigers. We're the worst in the conference based on what some writers are saying. We only look good on paper, and we're the worst in the conference based on them spending $1.3 million. It can say that we do have a really tough conference. Can't downplay the Pac-12 conference, even though the Pac-12 has not won any national championships in football in recent years. But Pac-12 is not a pushover conference either. People want to downplay Pac-12 now because Coach Prime is here and he's eating everybody's lunch in the preseason. So now everybody wants to downplay Pac-12. Pac-12 is nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's so weird on how things happen. You get somebody you don't like, and all of a sudden you start downplaying them. The girl don't like you no more, so all of a sudden she ugly, but you were fawning all over her before she was the prettiest thing. It's so weird. It's so weird how people think. Anyway, what stories are you guys hearing or extrapolating from these numbers? Tell me in the comments. All right, so number 2, Washington. Washington spent $1,464,753. Their average was $733,139.50. What was Washington's record? Washington won 7 games in the conference, lost 2. They came in at a perfect number, 777, that God number. And overall, they went 11-2. You win 11-2, that is a great season. Will you say 11-2 was that money well spent? Who did they have before? Who was their quarterback, running back, wide receivers, their skill positions, their trenches? Who was here before? Who did they bring in? Did they bring in any new guys that made impact? For you guys that know that stuff, you can share that with us in the comments. Who was the last team? All right, the last team, guys, is Oregon. Oregon Ducks, the Quacks. Did you guys watch the video where I talked to you about how each team in the Pac-12 got their mascot? You guys know how they got the duck to be their mascot? The AD at Oregon, Walt Disney was his guy, was his friend. He made a phone call. He was like, yo, Walt Disney, man, I need that mascot. Can we hold that? They had a handshake and they sealed the deal. And that's how they got their mascot. How much did they spend? Coming in at number 1, $1,836,865. Their average spending was $1,027,045.33. That's a lot of money. So what's their record? Oregon won 7 games in the conference, lost 2. They had a perfect number, 777, and they went 10-3 overall in college football of 2022 season. Somebody say, if you want to know the truth, follow the numbers. So you got to follow these numbers. What are the numbers saying to you guys out there? Let me know what you think about those numbers. What stories are you hearing, reading between the lines, what you think that information means. Okay, family, that is all the information that I have for this video. I hope you got a little something out of it. And if you did, please make sure to smash that subscribe button to help this channel grow. That's all I do here. I'm going to have to leave it right there. You know who I am. I'm Harry B. And that right there was the Liberian Perspective. That's TLP Sports Club.